Hi everyone, so I'm filming in a different location today and I've got a kind of different setup, so let me know what you think about it. Obviously it's a little bit more zoomed in than usual because this is more of a tutorial type of thing and normally it would be zoomed out a lot further so you'd be able to see a little bit better. But I hope you enjoy this and I'm just going to talk you through my kind of winter foundation routine, so things I'm doing differently now that the weather's getting a little bit cooler. I'm just going to talk you through what I've used on my face before I started with my foundation. So I used the Murad Oil Control Mattifier SPF 15, which looks like this, and I've been using this in place of a primer recently because it's mattifying enough and it really helps your makeup just go on amazingly well if you've got oily skin like I have. So I've used that all over my skin, and just because it's winter doesn't mean that you can skip using an SPF. It's still really important to use an SPF. And then my eye cream, I've used the Ren Radiant Eye Gel, which looks like this. This is just a little sample I got of it, but it's just like a brightening under eye gel, so I've used that. So I'm going to start with my foundation, and the foundation I'm using at the moment is still my Bourjois Healthy Mix, just in a lighter shade. I'm shade number 54 at the moment, which is quite light for me. I think it's the lightest I've ever been, but I've been using this in conjunction with a couple of other products and it's been really helping my winter skin because I feel like my skin's been quite kind of lackluster. I've had a lot of redness in my skin, which is something that I'm not used to at all and that my skin doesn't normally do, so I've had to try and use products to kind of combat that. And to apply this I use one of two brushes. If I'm going for a kind of more of a flawless heavy coverage look, I'll use the Sedona Lace 480 brush. I've done a full review of this brush a couple of months ago, so I'll link that in the down bar, but this is amazing if you want a much more full coverage look. And then for just an everyday look, I've been using the Sigma Flat Kabuki F80 brush, which is lovely. And this is what I'm going to use today because this is just what I'd use to kind of just go and run errands and if I'm not doing anything particularly important. So I like to pump some out on the back of my hand. And I always use a small amount because don't forget you can always add more, and I hate wasting products. So I just take a small amount of the foundation and start applying it on the areas where I need the coverage the most, which for me is the centre of my face. That tends to be the case with most people. The centre of your face is where you need the most coverage. And then I like to just tap it in with the brush, and because this is quite a kind of flat brush, it really helps to make everything kind of sink into the skin better. Just move my hair back a little. So I like to just really work it into the skin and make sure that everything's nicely covered up. And then apply more where I need it. So for me, those areas tend to be kind of my red areas. And I think at the moment, because it's quite cold, my skin's just kind of being much more red. I'm going to apply a little bit more onto the back of my hand and just work it into my skin. Just really covering the areas that kind of need extra attention. And if you work quite fast with this brush, you do kind of get a really nice finish. And make sure you get everywhere that tends to get red. Take a little bit kind of on my forehead area, even though I don't tend to do this all the time. It's just at the moment I've got a little bit of a breakout going on my forehead. So there, once I've decided that my foundation is blended in enough, I'll then move on to concealer. And the concealer I'm using is the Mercier Secret Concealer in shade number 3, which is just this lovely kind of peachy tone. So it's really amazing for under eye darkness. And I like to just take a little bit of this and just get it on the areas where I get the most kind of dark, shadowy areas. I don't take it all over because it's not particularly brightening. And then with a fluffy brush, this is just by Blush Professional brushes, I like to just work this into the skin. This isn't really the type of concealer that works amazingly well with hands. It's really more of a brush type of concealer, and then I like to just kind of warm it up and make sure that it's all blended in. Then to just make sure that my foundation is blended, and I know this seems like a long kind of really fiddly step, but trust me it's not, it just looks like this because I'm talking while I'm doing it. I use this little sponge which is kind of a dupe of the Beauty Blender. It's just kind of like a dome shaped sponge. Mine's dirty because I used it yesterday. But this is from a website called I think it's called Just Born Pretty or Just You Pretty, something like that. I'm going to put it right here anyway. But I got sent this to review, and this is a really, really lovely dupe. They do loads of amazing things. They do things like loads of cool nail art and kind of really amazing top coats and nail polishes and that kind of thing, and just little bits and bobs of kind of beauty items. So I like to use this to just kind of buff in my foundation, and I like to just bounce it on the areas where foundation tends to collect. So for me it tends to be the sides of my nose, in between my eyebrows, and just under my eyes, just to make sure that my concealer is blended. If you just kind of bounce it into the skin, it just helps to kind of deliver a really flawless finish. And I've got a coupon code for you that will give you 5% off, and it's valid until the 30th of April, I believe. Yeah, the 30th of April, I just double checked that. But I've got a coupon code for you, and I'm going to write it up here right now. And the coupon code is DRTW10, and I'm going to just write it up here again, like I said, and I'll put it in the down bar as well, and you can get 5% off any order that you make. So if you want to try something like this and you can't get hold of the Beauty Blender, this is a really great little dupe. So once I've got my foundation all blended in perfectly, I like to just add a little bit more coverage because, like I said, my skin hasn't been being its best lately, and for that I use a mineral foundation. This is the NATorigin mineral foundation, and I mentioned this in my beauty roundup. It's a really lovely mineral powder. And I like to just get a little bit out. I've got too much there. Just get a little bit of the powder into the lid of the brush, and then with my Real Techniques buffing brush, I like to just dip it in, tap off any excess, and on the areas where I need any extra coverage, I like to just tap this in first, like so, and then just start to buff it out, and it really does help to kind of give you more of a flawless look. But you still look natural, you still don't look like you're caked in foundation. It's just a very natural, very pretty look. Get a little bit more. And it really, really does help give that polished appearance, and I'm not someone who was a fan of mineral foundation before, ever. But this is lovely on its own, and it's lovely over the top of your regular foundation. So I've just added a little bit of extra coverage there, and then I'm going to just apply a tiny bit of highlighter because this is something that I do all the time in the cooler months because my skin can look a little bit kind of dry and kind of lackluster. This is from the Midnight Jewels palette from Jemma Kidd. I'm not sure what this is called, but it's this white cream highlighter right here. You could use any type of liquid highlighter. I think liquid's just a little bit nicer if your skin's a bit drier. So I like to just get a little bit on my hand and just on the top of my cheekbone, just place a little bit and just work it into the skin with my fingers. A small amount goes a long way. You could do this with a flat foundation brush, but I like to just do it with my fingers. So just on the top of my cheekbone, and just work it into the skin, and it just helps to kind of add that little bit of a glow, and it just catches the light beautifully. Then I'm just going to quickly powder over the top of this to make sure everything stays in place and stays matte, and then that's it. So I'm using the Rimmel Silky Loose face powder on a MAC, what is this, the 182 Kabuki. Just looks like this, a really lovely one. And I like to just kind of push it into my forehead because that's where I get the most oily, and then just carry on to the rest of my face and just set it lightly. This is a really non-powdery powder. In my opinion, it's very similar to the Laura Mercier Invisible Loose powder. So I really, really love using that. And that's it. That's my updated foundation routine for winter. I hope you found this helpful. If any of you have tried any of these products, then let me know in the down bar, and I will see you in the down bar, in the comment section, sorry. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye-bye.